I could actually send you the link to his video if you
Yeah,
want that.
send me.
Okay.
After this, maybe. Amy's did well.
Oh yes, it did. It, she her video was super awesome. We learned a lot as well.
Awesome. I'm hoping that I can close off the week.
No pressure, no pressure,
Yeah.
no pressure at all. No pressure. So we've gone live now, and let's just get started. So hi everybody. Today we have Tom Scott. He's the co-founder of Fearless Group, and he's helped build design community. Design teams all over the world. Literally, I know how many times I see his post either on LinkedIn, on Slack, and he's looking for new people to hire so that he can fix them up in teams. It's just a very cool thing. So we have him here, and he's going to be talking with us about getting hired. I'm sure that's something a lot of us are interested in because in the end, you want to get a job and you want to make some money. I mean, you're not doing design for free. And so, well, even me, I mean, there were times I looked for jobs myself. So I know that it's something that is very important to most people. And honestly, looking for a job can be hard. A lot of the times you're really confused. You're getting so many rejection emails. There are no pointers. You don't know what you're doing wrong. You don't know what you should be doing right. There's a lot of advice on the internet. Some people say do it this way. Some people say do it that way. Some people say, so many different things. I honestly, I went through that. And there's also the fact that a lot of the times it deals with your own self-esteem. You begin to wonder if you're even good at this at all. I mean, if you were this good, why is nobody hiring you? And it even gets worse for designers like for beginner designers like us. Yes, I am. I know some people won't argue about that, but yes, I consider myself a beginner. So it even gets worse for us when you're beginning because I mean you don't know what you're doing right. More companies are going for more senior level designers, so that's why we have Tom here. He's going to talk to us about all this stuff. Try as much as possible to answer some of the questions that we have. And I know a lot of you have a lot of questions about this part, getting hired. So drop your questions in the comment section, and we'll ask as it goes. And I'm just going to let Tom talk about himself before we just get started. So hi Tom. Hi.
Hey, no, it's a pleasure to be here. Been looking forward to this all day. So yeah, so I'm like Angel said, I'm Tom Scott. So I'm the co-founder of a company called Fearless. So we're a design group. So we have three companies essentially. We have the talent arm. So we work with design execs to build and scale design teams. We have Fierce, which is our design studio, so executing on actual design work, building cool products and services. And then we have Fearless Community. So that's where we have around 7,000 designers on Slack and from 43 countries now, actually, doing some cool things, events, conferences, etc. We're about to start scaling that up again soon as well. So the kind of companies that we work with companies literally all over the world, from Tokyo to San Francisco to London. Some of the best design studios in the world, like Fantasy Interactive. I'm sure you've seen their work. If you haven't heard of them, you've probably seen their work. To big companies like BP in London, where we're building a design team to sort of reinvent BP essentially through design and build their net zero mission. And then I post a lot on LinkedIn and like to be part of the community. And if there's anything I can do to help people today, if I just help one person, my job's done. So I'm really excited to be here and answer any questions.
All right. Well, I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy you're here to answer the questions. So I think I'm going to talk more from a beginner perspective today because first of all, most of our audience are beginners, and the hustle is real, really. So I've noticed a trend, right? Most companies want to hire senior designers. It's just heartbreaking, right? So you're seeing 4 years, you're seeing 5 years. Sometimes you can, so like this happened to me. I know that altogether I'm 3 years in product design specifically. I did graphics design for 4 years. So that's, well, overall in design, I have 7 years of experience. But I also know that in product design, I'm just 3 years. And I know something I saw often was that companies were willing to go for designers with 9, 10, 5. And for someone like me, I was, well, would I say fortunate to work in teams where I basically had to more or less lead design and do a lot of things that a lead designer would have done. So I want to understand or know, why are they not giving any opportunity to some folks are fresh out of school,
Yeah.
true. Some other folks, even though they don't have as many years of experience, have by virtue of where they've worked, the kind of teams they've worked in, been able to dabble into things that are more or less senior level, what a senior level designer would do. So why is nobody listening and giving opportunities to younger designers?
It's a great question. So I think, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, I think there's been a lot of companies sort of reinventing their business models, their design teams, and I think where you're seeing a lot of this remote first culture is it's very hard to mentor juniors, because often, I don't like actually this, juniors is not a cool word, early stage design. So I think it's hard to mentor early stage designers because I think you get a lot of sort of the nuances of learning in the office. And so I think a lot of companies have been hesitant to bring in early stage designers because they can't actually give them the opportunities that they deserve to increase their career, unless they're going to be sort of a visual design wireframe sort of person, really. Then it doesn't really, you don't get any benefit from the company's perspective. Also, often when companies are, when hiring managers are getting budgets, they want to bring in they want to maximize their budget. So if they can get seniors and mids and leads, it kind of makes sense because they don't need to go out and hire juniors, essentially. I also think there's a lot of companies who don't understand design maturity yet. So they're bringing in seniors and leads to increase the design maturity. I think that early stage designer would get really lost in that org change. And also think people don't know how to mentor and train juniors. So they don't want the stress and the ag. But that's only some companies. There are a lot of companies out there that are hiring early stage designers. But I would say it comes that, just to sort of round it up and say, it comes down to being remote first. It's really hard to mentor someone because you obviously get a lot of nuances, and then also hiring managers maximizing budget and finding seniors. But there's a lot of problems of that as well, which we can go on to. But that's why I think it's happening.
So, is there a way that beginner designers or early stage designers can position themselves to get attention from companies? Because, like I said, someone like me, I got fortunate. I love the experience I had, and
Yeah.
I know that I did a lot of things that senior designers would do. So, is there a way that people like me who've at least gotten by, can actually position themselves so that these companies will see them for who they really are, move past the numbers, and actually see the experience that these guys bring to the table?
Absolutely. I think I always say, first off, do like an audit of your brand, do an audit of your your portfolio, CV, LinkedIn, and how you're sort of being seen in the market. So I always say your LinkedIn should be like a sticky landing page. And so when someone goes onto your LinkedIn, they should know who you are as a person, what you're about, what your values, your principles, and then maximize all the info in your LinkedIn. That should be sort of as like a sticky CV landing page. So like your experience, maximize what was the return of investment of your design work on a business. References, like references, or I don't know what they call it on LinkedIn. So when someone like validates you, basically, so they get some validation. I also think there's a way of being active on LinkedIn, not necessarily writing content, but being part of conversations always helps. It helps you get into the sort of LinkedIn algorithm a lot more. I think that definitely having, as an early stage designer, I think it is important to have some kind of portfolio. I think you've probably seen some LinkedIn posts where I'm like, do leaders need portfolios? Do seniors need portfolios? But I do think early stage folks need portfolios for sure. So it's like, so people can see your process, they can see your visual outputs, and just your creative spark, really. I think often if you're good enough, you'll be hired. Simple as that, especially in visual design. And then CV. CV should just keep really basic. I don't really look at CVs. I'm going to be honest. That's where I think LinkedIn comes into its own. But yeah, I would say do an audit. Look at your brand. Be more active on LinkedIn, and look at your portfolio as well.
Okay. So what do you think these companies look for in portfolios? Yeah.
But also, just going back, actually, just want to make a point real quick. So, and then it comes down to being proactive with your search. You can't expect, if you're in a country where design, isn't a thing, and recruiters aren't going to be, bashing down your door, or hiring managers. You have to be proactive. You can't just sit back and then not do anything. And I know that's easier said than done. But for example, I would get like a Notion page or Airtable and map out, right? These are the countries that I want to live in, or I want to be remote. I would do some research into what companies have good design teams in all these countries, or all the companies that are remote. I would go onto LinkedIn once I've done the audit of the profile. I've got a nice LinkedIn, and see who the hiring manager is. Like, type in, say, Spotify. So I'll type in Spotify and head of design in the search bar, and it will come up with who the head of design is at Spotify. You can also Google it as well. And then I would message them. I would get into their network. Oh, can you?
This is serious one. I think okay, I'm back.
You got me.
Okay, we're back. I'm not sure what happened there.
Not sure.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
I was mid-flow as well, and then it just all froze. I was like, what's happened? And I was checking my Wi-Fi, but my Wi-Fi was fine. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I was talking about messaging designers and hiring managers in these companies. And then the magic thing is that no one really does is track it. Quantify how many people you're speaking to, how many people you're applying to. I'm just seeing the comment here. Yeah, and then so track everything, but also track the date that you message these people. Did they reply to you? And then the magic follow up. Always follow up. LinkedIn messages get busy, so some people will miss it. Some people won't accept your request. Make sure you follow up every 2 weeks. You'll be surprised about people that don't do this. I think with job searching, like anything, it's about consistency and hard work. And especially in design, as an early stage designer, when opportunities aren't necessarily limited, but you don't get as many given to you like you do as a senior and lead, you have to be proactive, you have to be consistent, and you have to just have that grit. And that's not like a, like a sexy title you can put on YouTube where you see all these YouTubers like, hey, how to get hired by Spotify with 90K salary in 3 months. That, how to have grit through the job search wouldn't get hits because it's not, a sexy thing. But I think there's something to be said about having grit, determination, and just tracking everything. Got to get your foot in the door somehow.
So is there a format that would get the most attention out of a hiring manager? Because I
Depends.
imagine they get a ton of messages and obviously they cannot respond and give everybody a job. So is there like something you would do extra that will make it go like, oh yeah, hi, let's continue this conversation?
So I would say, sorry, 2 seconds. So I would say you could say you're speaking to someone at, I don't know, this is use Spotify as an example. I would say, right, hey, Mr. Hiring Man or Mrs. Hiring Manager, I am Tom, and I can solve this problem for you. I've done it for these companies. Do you fancy a conversation? That's like one direct way. The indirect way is, hey, want to connect. I'm looking to relocate to London. Really want to expand my network. And then if someone accepts a request, there's a mutual understanding there that you're going to message them and you want something from them. And then you go back in. So my strategy is, when I'm doing, new business or reaching out to candidates as well, it's make that warm introduction first, have that mutual understanding that there's going to be some dialogue, and then go in for like what you actually want out of someone. But there's no set formula. I think there's some aspect of tailoring. So if you really want to work in some companies, tailor it in terms of, I would love to work with Spotify. This is why. For example, if you can prove you've done research into companies and people, that will go a long way. I don't know about you, but do you ever get like cold LinkedIn messages? I do all the time.
I do.
And it's just like, who reads them, who accepts them? So, but when you get someone that actually is taking the time to research you or your company, you always respond, no matter if you can help them or not.
So is there a thin line between being proactive and being desperate? At what point do you just go from, oh, I'm trying so hard to get a job and just reach out to people, to looking like somebody that's, I don't know, it's just very desperate. You can't get a job.
Yeah. Like I would say don't follow up more than 3 times over a 6-week period. So first connection, 2 weeks later follow up, 4 weeks later follow up again if they haven't responded, and then leave it. Because there will be some aspect of like, oh my god, does this person like not leave me alone kind of thing. But you gotta get yourself out there. Like, you are going to get some people who won't respond to you or ignore you, but that's life. For sure.
Okay.
So I'd say 3 follow-ups over 6 weeks, but make sure you're tracking it.
Okay. So I think I'm just going to bring this a little more home to us as Africans, and for me as a Nigerian. I know there's a lot of jobs that I interviewed for, I did great, and I know that probably the only factor, the only reason why, I'm not sure, obviously they wouldn't say things like this, is probably because I was a Nigerian, based and living in Nigeria. So is there something that people like us can do to, I get it, right? These things are all just, everybody is trying to protect themselves, right? For a country like mine, there's a certain view that the rest of the world has. And I cannot, or we all cannot relocate at the same time, right? So do you think there is a way that for those of us in Africa, in Nigeria, or in countries that overall have probably a bad reputation to the rest of the world can represent, get,
Yeah,
I don't know
I
how to put this.
no. So I get it, and it's really sad that you have to feel like that. And I think there's something fundamentally wrong with the countries like the US, UK, Europe as a whole, of like why we view people from India, for example, as cheap offshore resource, which is BS. People like Africa, they treat them the same, which is complete nonsense, because there's some of the most talented designers that I've met in Nigeria, are like hands down. India as well, there's some amazing people. I am starting to see a shift now towards India becoming more of a strategic partner or strategic part of companies, rather than it being this cheap offshore resource that people use, and rightly so. I think the remote first era has helped that a lot, for sure. But one thing I would say is understand the culture you're trying to get into. Understand how they find jobs. Understand, how they work with each other, and that will help. I think that will put you in good stead. I think, for example, if I was to go over to Nigeria and not understand your culture, I would be viewed as insensitive. I would be viewed as, sort of an outcast, and that it works both ways. I think we need to understand where, different cultures, especially if you're talking about human-centered design, right? I think that comes into it, understanding the culture you're going into. I also think, as early stage designers, we need to understand the return of investment that you have on companies. So understand, if you're going to an agency, that you could potentially be, companies will potentially pay hundreds and thousands of pounds for your time every day. Understand the value you bring, and really start to think about design and business rather than just visual outputs. Does that
Okay.
make sense? I think
Yes, it does.
the culture thing is massive, for sure.
So since we're talking about money now, let's talk money.
Okay.
I know that I know that one of the problems that some of us I see happen a lot is, so in a different culture they are willing to pay a certain amount of money. And then when they come down to your culture, they are saying, "Oh well, in your country, this is probably the most." I actually had that experience once. Somebody says,
Okay.
"Hey, I did some research, and in your country, this is how much that they pay people. So I don't know why I should pay you any more than this, right?" So how do you suggest that we handle such things?
I was actually having this conversation with one of my colleagues who is based in South Africa, and we're talking about paying remote people. So, say you have two people who are visual designers, and they have the same level of skill, experience, and they deliver the same project. One is in South Africa, one is in London. Should they be paid the same? What would you say?
I think they should.
Okay, I disagree. I think they should be paid not the same, because, but this person in South Africa should be paid well and at market rate. But the reason I don't think they should be paid more is because London is a lot more expensive than Cape Town, for example, or other parts of the world. And so I saw this happen a lot in Bali, and a lot of Westerners were going over to Bali, and they were getting 100 grand, 200 grand a year. They'll go to Bali, they'll live like king and queens, and the local Balinese people in these towns where these Westerners were couldn't afford simple groceries, a nice way of living, because all the costs have gone up. So we need to like also respect people who aren't in tech and in these countries. So that's my only thing. But I would say that definitely paid well, but just not maybe at the San Francisco or London rates. Have like maybe 10% less. to these countries. Does that make sense? Because what I think we need to be careful of is just not affecting local economies too much. Because if we pump loads of money in through design and tech, people who aren't in design and tech won't be able to afford things because the cost of living goes up because everyone knows that this is where the money's at. So I think we need to be careful there. But I do agree that you need to pay on par, but maybe a little bit less. What do you think? I think there's definitely going to be some people that disagree, and there'll be some people that do agree. And I think you're seeing it now, like big companies are paying people less to be remote because they don't have to travel into the cities. They don't have high living costs like San Francisco, New York, London. So there's definitely just the question here. Location kind of does determine pay, in my opinion. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't be paid well, like maybe more than the average person in your country or city. But I don't think it's fair to pay someone the same in Venezuela than it is in San Francisco, because the San Francisco person is paying 10 times the rent, 10 times the grocery bill.
Well, honestly,
I
what
also
I
think
do think is okay. Go ahead.
no. I think I'm personally starting to see two different types of designers these days. The first designer is the person that loves the craft, they love design. The other person is getting into design for the money, because we all know UX, product design, service design pays well. And education boot camps are cashing on it. And so I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because not everyone works for the love of what they do, but it's just an observation. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one, but you're seeing companies paying less for people being remote. So it's just how it is right now.
Well,
I get that.
honestly, I think
I have to
what?
disagree with people. I fundamentally disagree with people who say that they should get paid the same as someone in San Francisco than Venezuela, somewhere else that pays 10 times, that you've got 10 times less living costs. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Well, so that depends on what you consider as living costs.
Yeah.
Because yes, there are obvious things that are more expensive. So say rent is more expensive, groceries are more expensive. But the truth of the matter is that people in some of these other countries might have other things they have to pay for that does not immediately fit into the living costs that somebody in San Francisco would pay, which means they have their own expenses. They have things that take money from them every month, right? They have things that they have to pay for. The guy in San Francisco might pay 10 times the rent, but not pay anything else. The guy in Nigeria might pay, well, just what you would consider very little but has several other things that they have to pay for. And I'm saying this probably because I live in Nigeria. I also have friends that live abroad, so I know the difference, right? I have a friend that lives in London, and the other day he showed me his page, I think paycheck or something, and I could see all the deductions from taxes and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, I get this. And he was talking about, but in the end, I know what I have to pay for. Yes, they do not necessarily come in form of probably even legitimate living costs, but there are still bills that I have to pay, even though
Yeah.
I'm in Nigeria. Yes, the rest of the world doesn't know about this. So I honestly do not think that if two people are doing the exact same job, turning out the exact same results, doing the exact same things, they should be. I would rather say that these conversations should probably be more um, personal, than a general rule. So maybe having conversations, what is this person comfortable with being able to take home, not as a rule that, okay, so just because you live in Nigeria, I do not think your living cost is as much as the guy who is in San Francisco. So therefore,
Yeah.
I'll pay you less, that guy. So I think that conversations that should more be about during the rather be during the hiring process, you talk with this person. What do you think you're comfortable going home with? Let them let you know what they think is comfortable. But because
Well,
because in the end, what is the standard really? What is the standard? I live in Nigeria. The economy is horrible.
yeah.
Companies are paying so much less, not necessarily because that is what they want to. Yes, there are those that want to exploit, but also because there really is no money anywhere, right? These guys are struggling to make ends meet. The average company in Nigeria spends a ton of money just on electricity,
Yeah.
So I'm in Nigeria, for instance, and for me to work remotely, definitely I have to stay online all the time. I have to, my laptop has to be on, my phone has to be on. I mean, we're making this call, and these are things that my generator is currently on.
Yeah.
The guy is on first. This is not his problem. He doesn't. I know how much I spend every month on fuel. I know how much I spend every month on fuel. So yes, it may not look like it's as expensive as living in London, but we still have our own bills to pay. So I do think that
So,
these
so
conversations we
uh,
can make it a general rule.
no, I agree, but I also agree with this here about the 20%, 10%, 20% rule. I think a lot of companies are bringing that in if they're remote. I think if they're remote, it's different. And I also think the legal entity is a thing that you have to, if you're, some companies have a thing where you have to be in the country of where they have an entity. If not, you get contract, you can contract, of course, that's no problem. But yeah, I do get your point, absolutely. But I still think I can't see companies paying the same. I just can't see it right now. Right now, from what I'm seeing, it's not happening. But I do think we do need to pay more equal. I just don't think it's happening fully yet. That's
Well, that's
yeah.
okay. That's understandable. Hopefully, we'll
I think
get to a
I think we
point
see
where
I think we're seeing good change. I really do. I really do. I think COVID's helped in terms of like leveling up opportunities. So for remote designers to get access to the top companies. So I'm just looking at some comments here.
it's okay.
Same result, we pay the same amount. I disagree, Charles. Not everyone has the choice of choosing their location. What about if they've got kids? Because if I didn't have a kid, I'd be in Bali and I'll be making 10 times the profit of what I'm doing now, living in Brentwood in Essex, where I'm paying £3,000 for a 3-bedroom house. £3,000, right? Is the average, is 50K here is an average salary, normal. Okay. And that net is less than 3,000. If I was a single parent in Brentwood, in Essex, I couldn't survive. I'd be on the street. So no, Charles, not everyone has the choice of where they live. People have family that they can't leave. Because trust me, I think if people could go to Bali and Mauritius and have San Francisco salaries, they would. But life isn't like that, in my opinion. I think we can't, like what you said, Angel, we can't stereotype people. We can't have the same rule for everyone. We need to have that personalized approach. Sorry, I get really passionate about this subject because I think it's difficult. It's a difficult subject, and I can understand why people in certain countries view the UK, US, and people here as like they're making these big salaries. But I can tell you, we're not. We're not. Like there's people making 100 grand a year here, and they don't make their rent, they don't make their food bills because they have all these bloody taxes, VAT bills. I'm one of those. So I just don't understand this. I think I think we just need perspective on all this. And I think we are leveling the playing field, but it's going to take some more time, for sure. I'm just looking at some more questions here. But on your point, why would local companies hire you if you can hire others for the same work for less? Because I don't. Am I reading that right? But on your point of view, why would local companies hire you if they could hire others for the same work? Okay, that's a good question. I think if you're especially like UX service design, I think having someone in a physical workshop 2 or 3 days a week helps. Fostering that culture. I think we're starting to see a lot more people try to go back to the office 1 or 2 days a week. I know personally we've just leased an office in London because we want to bring people together. So obviously you couldn't do that if you hire fully remote. But yeah, that's a good question. I also think it goes down to, can they hire these people overseas? Having that legal entity, the legal side of things as well. So yeah, it's...
All right. Okay, so let's move away from the money, because I'm sure if we keep talking about this, there'll be so many questions and so many
I
perspectives.
just want to just round that off as well. Like I get it. Like it's a crazy market out there. Design is paying very well, and I do think there are people very underpaid, and I do think there's people very overpaid, and I think we do need to level that playing field. But like you said, you probably made the best point of the night, right? It's all about that personalized approach and those hidden costs of living. Like the UK, it's just it's a crazy amount of rent that we have to pay. But then you have hidden costs that we don't know about. It's just nuts. I think that the recruitment process needs to be more tailored to a certain extent.
Okay, that I agree with.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
No. All good.
You're reading a comment. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna ask this because
people talking. It definitely got.
Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's fine. As I say, it definitely got people talking.
Oh, okay. Okay. I saw you touch your arm. I thought you were talking about that.
Oh no.
All right. Does it feel better yet?
What's that?
Your arm, does it feel better?
Oh, it's a bit dead, but it's the COVID jab. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. So let's just move around from the money, because people are still talking.
Sure.
Okay, not about the money. So what would you consider a red flag in the hiring process? Because I know that is something else, especially for beginner designers. You're not sure what is a red flag. Rather, today is not the day. What is a red flag and what isn't a red flag? So what would you consider a red flag during the hiring process?
It's a great question. Red flags from what perspective? The company's perspective or the candidate's perspective?
The candidate.
Okay. Like not turning up on time to interviews, not having like polished portfolio from an early stage designer perspective, right? Not being able to talk through your work and give the rationale behind the why and the why and the how of the work. But apart from that, I wouldn't say there's much that you could really catch someone out with. I don't agree with if someone has gaps in their CV or anything like that. I don't think that's a red flag at all. I think everyone's entitled to have breaks and pauses in their careers. I don't see that as a red flag at all. I know some people do, but I personally don't.
So on the part of the company, how does a candidate know a company that is going to be trouble?
Like when they say you're going for a UX role, right? And they ask you for your UI assets. like they clearly don't understand UX, or companies that clearly don't understand the role that they're hiring you for, or not being prepared in the interview, so asking you the same question over and over, or not giving you appropriate feedback loops in between each interview process. I think that's a big thing. Keeping that candidate experience high, because a disorganized interview process says a lot about the kind of company you're going into. So that overall experience for sure.
Okay. So yeah, you scout for talent. So what do you ideally look for in your talent, so that we can position ourselves so you can scout us and get us?
So for product design, it's does the person understand sort of UX, visual design, business to a high level? Do they have a nice sort of end-to-end process in their portfolio? I think someone that has nice visual design in a product design portfolio is really, really important, sort of that end-to-end experience. If it's more UX, you like to see the sort of the dirty wireframes, prototypes, like low fidelity stuff before you get to the finished article. So definitely more of the thinking, the rationale behind the problems. And then visual design, it's like you can always tell a good visual designer from like their dribble or something like that. Someone that's got that like pop, that wow factor is really important. Also, someone that is like a solid communicator, someone that understands the impact that their design has on the business. I think that's really like a really important thing. And then, so I'm just thinking, my COVID jab has made me all tired.
It's okay.
So give me a minute.
Okay.
Someone that understands the sort of the why for sure. And then I also communication, but also can they navigate large company politics? And then looking back to where they've worked before. So have they got good references? Is always it's always a good thing. How do they conduct themselves online? Have they got like a decent enough LinkedIn? Can you see what their experience is? All that kind of stuff. That personal brand element.
Okay.
But also people who are transparent about what they're looking for. So, for example, if someone wants to move to the UK or US, have they done their research about what they need, like what visa they need, how much does that visa cost, and all that kind of stuff? Because honestly, there's loads of companies that can sponsor that just they can't be. I personally don't think HR maybe can go through the process and the admin. It takes a while. So someone that's done their research on that stuff is really important. Make it as easy as possible for the company to hire you.
Okay. So let's come back to the money a little. One of the biggest problems I know, even I do have sometimes, is being able to negotiate the money, right? So a lot of the times you're not sure what is too high or what is too low. They do have a budget. You know what's comfortable for you, but a lot of times how to go about these things. So how would you suggest that we go about it to get the best results?
Always go higher than you think you're going to get and higher than what you're comfortable with. So say you're negotiating, I don't know, 40K, rough figure. Say you really want 40. I would say, right, go higher at like 50, because then they're going to negotiate you down, if anything. And if they don't, then great, you've got 10K more than you were going to get anyway. And so they think if they negotiate you down, they think they're getting a good deal. But actually you wanted 40 in the first place. So then they think you're going down, but you're at what you wanted, and they've got a good figure. Also, when you're explaining why you want, the salary you do, talk about what the return of investment of your work is. So then that's when you're looping back into your experience around what your ROI is on the business. Talk about, like, go through the job specs. They say they wanted all these requirements. You can go, well, I've got 3 years experience in this. This is where I've worked. This is my level of interaction design, blah, blah, blah. This is my level of research, etc. And give them, like, facts of why you can hit that job spec. Nice comment. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say, and if they ask them why they won't give you the money, ask them outright. Is it budgets? If it's budgets, it's budgets. Is it something to do with your skill set? So if it's, say, you've got to maybe improve your visual design. Okay, cool. Well, give me a plan when I get into the company of how I can improve my visual design. And then in 3 months' time, let's explore a salary increase, because you'd have already hit your goal. Is there other things you can negotiate as well? So, like, can you negotiate stocks? Can you negotiate bonus? All that kind of stuff. Don't underestimate the power of like stocks and shares, for sure, especially if it's in a smaller company. And if they go, IPO in 5-10 years time, and you've got those stocks, then you'll get a lot of money. But also, I think the biggest thing, biggest thing is mindset. Know your worth. Know you're good. Know you're going to add value to this company. Be confident about it. And go for it. That's what I'd say.
I think that's typically the harder part, because when you probably gotten like 10, 15 rejection mails, anybody that looks like they are saying something slightly even different from what you've already gotten is like, whatever can I do not to lose this opportunity? And so you just find yourself grabbing, whatever you can get without really processing this. And then maybe a few months down the line, you realize, oh, I could have gotten 10K more, I could have gotten way more money, I could have gotten these benefits. Or maybe you even talk with your colleagues and you realize that every other person is actually out here with nice benefits and a lot of other really nice stuff, and you're the only person that is not enjoying a lot of other benefits that the company can offer. So I'm just going to, so since we're talking about esteem, I'm just going to ask this, right? Sometimes I wonder if a company can, or throughout the recruitment process, the recruiter can tell that you're having esteem issues. Do you think, have you ever talked with talents and then you can feel that this person is really struggling with their esteem right now? Does it reek? Is it obvious?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry, I didn't quite, my line was a bit dodgy. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So sorry. I was asking if it's possible for you as a talent sourcer to know when a candidate has very low self-esteem. I would like you to answer that so that some of us also know what to avoid. Because you may not even know it's that obvious to the person talking to you that this person is just, struggling.
So I think it would be down to, body language, how they view their work. When you ask questions, are they excited about their work, and talking about their future, of what their aspirations. I think it's very easy to tell if someone's like, down and not confident. But I also think that's the goal of a recruiter is to definitely help someone. That's when you can tell the difference in a good recruiter and a bad recruiter. Good recruiter will help and really sort of be that coach, that sort of mentor through the recruitment process. A bad recruiter will just ghost them because they're not gonna get placed, so that recruiter won't make money. So then they'll just ghost them. So I think I kind of think, I kind of think it's down to, it's not even nothing to do with design or recruitment or anything. I think it's down to working on yourself, working on your inner, spiritual self in terms of know your worth, know your value, know who you are as a human being, know where you want to get to, know, if people were to strip away your skill set, your title, your money, who are you as a person? And I think from there you can really grow into someone that has a self-confidence about them, self-awareness. So it almost goes down to work on yourself before you find a job. That or as a parallel part of the process of finding a job is find yourself.
I honestly think that can be very hard to do.
Yeah,
It's
it absolutely can. Like I work with a company called or coach with Mind Valley. I think I'm not sure if I can share links on this, but can I share a comment on this? I don't think I can.
Yeah, you can.
Well, can't see. Oh, anyway, if
You
you
just
type
have
in,
to press the more
oh
option.
yeah, should come up now then.
Yeah, I see.
So I work with this company called Mind Valley, right? And it's just their mission is to sort of personal transformation. And they have like free programs and stuff like that. And it helps you they're all about finding yourself, educating yourself on who you are and stuff like that. And I feel like that's really helped my self-confidence. So I don't really talk a lot on video and stuff like that. I'm more a writer. But now, like, sometimes I find it hard to sort of express who I am and myself on video like this. I'm better at writing, but Mind Valley's help me do that. And they have also courses on there about how to find jobs and find the right job. And so I'd really advise Mind Valley as some way maybe you can explore.
All right, sure. Thank you so much for that.
No
I'll
worries.
post the link up in the chat later. So at this point, we're just going to take questions from. I'm not sure what's going on with me and English today, but it seems like today is not the day. So at this point, I'm just going to take questions from the comment section. So, Kosi Sochuku says, "What are interview questions that recruiters ask?"
Recruiters will ask sometimes specific questions to the job that they're interviewing, recruiting for. So it'll be, generic questions to start with. So, what are you looking for? What's your experience? What's your level of experience across UX, UI, research, service design, business design, whatever? What's your experience across mobile, web, and apps, maybe? What kind of company are you looking for? Or if it's specific questions to a particular company, often they'll talk more about the brief and then if you hit the job spec or not. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. As myself as a recruiter, I'm not really like a detailed orientated recruiter. I'm more of a bigger, I go on gut a lot with candidates. What one of my specialities is selling in candidates who you wouldn't think would get that job, but because I've got to know them as people and my clients as people, and we're very culture first, it's easier to sell in. That is actually a good thing about working with a recruiter, rather than if you just apply online. It's hard to gauge if you could be the best culture fit in the world, but maybe they wouldn't get that from your portfolio or CV, and then you obviously might not get the job. So I think it's hard to.
Okay. Well, so since we're talking about how do you find one, I know I tried to find at some point in my life and it was unbelievably hard. I was shocked. So how do you, find recruiters who be committed to helping you get a job? Or is it just a money thing? You have to pay first. I mean, I'm jobless. I don't have money, so how do I pay?
Often you've got two types of recruiters. You've got agents, what they call agency recruiters. So that's people who work for an agency, and then they have clients, and then they put candidates as clients, or they have an internal recruiter, which is someone that recruits specifically for a certain company, and they work for that company. So personally, I think if you're looking for guidance in the job search, you need a career coach, not a recruiter. Career coaches work for the candidates. Recruiters work for the companies. So it depends what you're looking for. I think if you're looking to like build your your CV, your LinkedIn, your presence online, I would look for a career coach. If you're looking for, and if you've got all that and you just want a job, speak to a recruiter. Some of the best recruiters are the ones that are maybe more niche, like one-man bands or smaller agencies. I think it's hard to find them, to be honest. I know a few for sure, but to be honest, I think probably your best bet is actually approaching companies directly, working with other designers at these companies to help you get in and get guidance, looking for mentors like ADP List. I'm sure you know ADP List. So companies like that's I think where your best bet is.
Okay. So there's a question from the audience. Enda says, do you need 1,000 samples or design projects on your portfolio before applying for a job?
No. 2 or 3 max.
Okay, I have 7.
Yeah, I don't think you need to overcomplicate it. I really don't. I think you need maybe 1 or like 2 max case studies of like end to end. So like a case study could be like, did you ever do like science experiments at school where you'd have to like write the hypothesis? This is what we did. This is how we did it. This is why we did it. That's like that's what a case study should look like. So 1 or 2 of them would be great. If you're more of a visual designer, maybe look at like Dribbble, Behance, as well as like a website. Dribbble, I really like Dribbble. Why? I really like Dribbble.
Okay, I actually don't know how to feel because I have like 7 projects on my portfolio.
Okay. At the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Like whatever you're comfortable with, whatever makes you happy and represents you in the best possible light, that's what you should do. This is just guidance. I just don't think you need to overcomplicate it. But if you want to put more in, put more in.
Okay, thank you. So if there are no other questions, we are just going to have to call it a day. I think I realized what the problem is. I have not eaten well today, so my brain is
yeah, I'm the same. I had the COVID jab, so I'm like, yeah. But no,
I don't know if I should ask you this. Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, thank you, obviously, for your time, and just to sort of round off, I think I want to go touch on the money thing again, because what I think is really important to know from what I've seen so far in my career is we are definitely seeing more of a shift towards paying people fairer, like a more fair amount. I do think there are some companies that are starting to pay people wherever they are in the world the same amount, which is a great thing. I just think we're still on that journey, and I think more importantly, just know your worth, know the kind of company you're working for. If they're based in New York, they can pay more. If they're based in Montana, they can't pay as much. So yeah. But if you ever need any help or advice, negotiation and stuff like that, feel free to reach out. We've actually just opened a office in South Africa, in Cape Town. So we're going to be investing a lot of time and effort into the African design community, and really start to sort of level up that playing field around getting people more opportunities with companies remotely or relocating them overseas to places like London, Berlin, stuff like that. So hold fire, like we've announced, we're going to announce it on Monday. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. I've actually placed quite a few Nigerian designers in the last couple of months, and
wow.
And I placed them at a US company, and they probably get, I would say, 2/3 of what the designer in San Francisco is getting. So, like, that's what like came to it, right? They're getting a lot more money than they would in a local company, but they're remote, so they're not getting as much. So I think we're starting to see a shift towards more money for sure everywhere, but I think it's a journey, and we will get there.
All right, sure. There's one last question from you for you from Enda. I need to eat, honestly.
Yeah, I
When
did.
writing when writing a cover letter on freelancing websites, how should one go about it?
It's a great question. One that I don't really know the answer to, if I'm going to be honest. But I would say, I'm guessing what you mean is a freelance, a company's put out a request for freelance, and you're basically pitching for it. So I would say I would look at the work, what they're looking for. If you've done that work, this is how I can help you. I've done it for these companies. These are the results I got for these companies, and keep it simple. I don't think cover letter should be short, not long, because people don't read it. How can someone apply for all the opportunities you just talked about? Great question. You can reach out to me and join our community. So reach out to me. Can you put a link on here? So like my
Yes, you
LinkedIn.
can.
Uh,
Just
please.
post a comment.
Okay, yeah. Please reach out to me. Um, or join the community. And then we'll be announcing our South African office, where we're going to invest a lot more into African design, because I genuinely do believe that some of the best designers in the world are in Africa.
I think I agree.
That they really are. Like some of the design in, like, especially, I say this a lot, but like especially Nigeria is just like unreal. So yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
so I have posted all the links in the comment section. You guys can go check it out. So thank you so much, Tom Scott, for
No,
joining us. And this has been really insightful. I'm sure I have learned a lot, and a lot of other people have learned a lot. Thank you so
good.
much.
Thank you so much. Speak soon. Bye.
Sure. Bye. So, everybody, today is the end of Design Week, and I'm hungry and tired, but here we are. So, stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe to this channel because I mean, we gave you goodies all week and we'll continue to give you goodies. All the good call guide. So we'll continue to give you goodies and we'll keep bringing more badass designers to give you guys the best information. What is it with or from? Sharp years of experience. They have years of experience, so they'll keep giving us a lot of info. I'm sorry, I'm actually tired and hungry. I don't know how I did not eat well throughout today. I really don't know how, but it happened. And here we are. I did like the sorry. Yes. So stay tuned. We'll continue to drop goodies from experts in design from around the world. So cheers. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for the shares, for the likes, for everything. You guys are just the best. I feel fly. I feel good, even though I'm hungry, but I still feel good. Thank you guys so much. Bye, people. Bye. Have a wonderful night, day, whatever time zone you're in. Thank you. That's great.